Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Simon, and welcome back to yet another daily upload on my channel for this Inktober. So, art block came at me hard for day 6. Halloween and wood on their own are prompts that I wasn't really struggling at all to think of ideas for, but when combining them together, it was super difficult. So, what does the idea of Halloween would entail? Halloween is so broad, whereas with like wood, there's only so much that you can really do. And unlike the other days, breaking things down was not really helping me. I had trouble coming up with even an initial idea for a sketch, so I finally gave in and decided to ask my husband if he could help me break down some of the prompts because after doing this for a few days in a row, especially a lot of the prompts at once, because oh boy, howdy, did I have to pre-prep a lot to make sure that I had this project ready for you guys. Um, that being said, I am having a ton of fun doing these videos, so don't worry about me. Anyway, my husband started spouting off some ideas, one of them being like a cuckoo clock that he was very excited about, but he also mentioned a puppet, which I thought was an excellent idea. Ironically, puppets or like marionettes have been a very consistent theme for my Inktober illustrations. Last year, I'm pretty sure I drew Richie Tozier as like a doll or like a puppet, not once, but twice. And the Inktober before that, I had at least, I think, one sketch of like a marionette character, but I can't recall whether I finished it or not. Anyway, I was sold on the marionette, obviously, so to tie in the Halloween aspect, I decided to make the head a little jack-o'-lantern, and it was giving me big over the garden wall vibes. I've already watched it twice this season, and I'm gonna watch it a million times more, obviously. I also decided to go with like some pretty thick line art for this because for some reason the wood idea was influencing me to work with like really angular and graphic sort of shapes, which of course influenced the line art as well. I also couldn't decide at first what material I wanted to use to color this illustration at first because on the one hand, I've been loving like this soft watercolor look for most of the paintings that I've done this month, but at the same time I couldn't figure out if I wanted it to look soft or if I wanted it to look very crisp and artificial. Ultimately, I wanted to go with watercolor because I felt like I could get a really flat tone, but at the same time, I didn't want to go with Poscas for that because I felt like it wasn't really the right vibe. It was almost kind of too graphic, and I also didn't feel like I had enough desaturated colors in order to get the sort of vibe that I was going for. Obviously, Poscas are very vibrant, and while there are like one or two desaturated colors I could have used, it definitely was not enough. So, like I said, I wanted to go with line art or watercolor because I felt like I could get a really smooth tone since I've been practicing with them so much this Inktober so far. But despite saying that I wanted really flat tones, it obviously didn't turn out that way. So I pre-mixed the colors off camera so that I wouldn't have to bore y'all with paint mixing because it's not as satisfying when it's further away. Like our camera's obviously angled, and I actually ended up mixing a little bit too much water into the paint, so I ended up with this patchy sort of texture, which at first I was kind of upset by, but as it dried, particularly around the pumpkin head, I realized I was super intrigued by it. I also liked that it was really only on the non-wooden parts that it ended up patchy. Anywhere that I painted for the wood ended up being that flat, even sort of wash, so it lended to the idea that the parts that weren't wooden were created similarly to, of course, how a marionette would have had to be. Wood is naturally occurring, obviously, and the only creation involved really would be, of course, carving, whereas like the head and the clothing look like they could have been handmade or man-made, if that makes sense. So I was actually kind of pleased with how they turned out. I also tried tried to do some subtle shading with colored pencils, which I kind of regret because on everything apart from the wood, the pencils looked really oversaturated. I felt like was especially noticeable around the pants because I went for like a really deep gray purple, and I thought that the pencil I had was the perfect shade, and then I put it on and it looked almost fuchsia. So that definitely was not right. You can kind of see it on the shirt. It's just a little bit too green and not quite olive green. So I kind of regret it because, like I said, it just looks too oversaturated. It was kind of aggravating, so I quit doing that pretty much almost as soon as I had started. Um, Also, unlike most of the finalized line art throughout Inktober, this one really didn't change much beyond the initial sketch. I mostly fixed up the fingers and changed the smile and added a few more wooden elements to make it more obvious that it's a puppet. Like I said, the art block was strong with this one. Despite the struggles throughout this illustration though, I still like the overall end result. It's very simple. I feel like it might need a background, so that's something that I probably will go in and do with acrylics, similarly to what I did with the taiyaki. And it's definitely not one of my favorites so far, but it's also definitely not ugly. Um, I also just really liked how the watercolors ended up looking. I've been having a lot of fun using watercolor this month because it's been really forcing me to work outside of my comfort zone, and the end result is always super satisfying. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry this voiceover was super short. I feel like a lot of them are short this year, but I feel or this year, this month, but I feel like it's fair because it's kind of hard to do a 30-minute video every day, so I feel like an 8-ish, 10-ish video every single day is still better than nothing. So, but yeah, in addition to that, today's video was just so simple that it was really hard for me to stretch it out into a longer video, and I definitely didn't want to bore y'all. And speaking of not boring y'all, I'd like to mention my very not boring Patreon. So the link is in the description as always, and there are a ton of cool tier rewards there like Etsy and commission discounts, wallpapers, coloring pages, and more. You can also get shoutouts alongside awesome people like Elise Thompson, Duran, and Mandy. Thank you guys so much for continuing to support me every single month. I love you guys so much, and I will see y'all in the next one. Bye.